So hello, my name is Georgianne Ford with the Alpha Center for Divorce Mediation. We're here today with one of our expert attorney mediators, and her name is Christine Lombardo-Zaun. If you've watched any of the other blogs in our resource center, she's definitely always has some really helpful information. So today, Christine, it's my understanding you're going to talk about children and how divorce affects them, but especially today you're centering on teenagers and going up to 21-year-olds, I think you said.
Yeah, absolutely. So nice to see you, Georgianne, and
Thanks.
thank you for being here with me. So yes, we talk about our teenagers, the children, and I have two of them, so I've been focusing on that, and I thought this topic was really appropriate given everything that's been going on. So this particular segment, I'm talking about a certain age group, so say 13 to 21. Even though the 21-year-olds would say, I'm not a teenager anymore, they still are, and their brains aren't formally developed yet. So I'm going to lump them into that category. And I've seen a lot of my clients who have children in this age group, and they struggle because they have a hard time discerning or splitting up what is actually teenage behavior and what is divorce related teen behavior. And so I think this would be helpful to kind of help parents think about, okay, what are some things that I can do to kind of alleviate all of those stressors that are happening? And maybe kind of, reduce some of the teen, stressful behaviors that happen.
Right.
Okay. So I've taken some of these tips from therapists that I've worked with, and the therapists at Alpha, okay, the parent mediators. So a lot of this information is where that's coming from. And then, of course, from just the personal experience I've had with my clients in managing them and for doing divorce litigation for, 10 years. So the first thing is when you have a teenager and you're going through a divorce, or you maybe have already gone through it, you want to be present with your teen. It is very easy to just kind of fly off the handle and jump on them because, maybe they're sleeping in too late, or, they're mouthy, and you might want to attribute all of that to the divorce. Well, not all of this is divorce related behaviors. And we have to remember that they are teenagers first and foremost.
Right.
So one of the things that I found that has been the common denominator is just be present. A lot of these parents feel that they have to spend as much time with the child, right? Who has more time? Well, a teenager doesn't necessarily want to be with the parents all the time, right? They want to do other things. So after you can get over that hump of knowing that you're not going to have as much time as you thought you were going to have, the time that you do have with them, you want to be present. And I've spent a lot of time researching presence and mindfulness. I've written blogs about it. And so when you're with your child, even if it's for 15, 20 minutes, you want to give 100% of yourself to that child. And you want to put whatever.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that's probably pretty hard when you're going through this emotional turmoil. So this is helpful just to have us hear this and remind us.
Right. And exactly what I'm saying here is nothing new. It's not new rocket science. It's stuff that we need reminders. And anybody that's going through a divorce, you need those constant reminders. You need that support, that reinforcement. So this is your reminder, right? Be present. Put whatever you have going on aside for that 15, 20 minutes and give it to your child. Okay. And what that means is, pay attention to what they're saying. So I'll come back to that in a minute. The second thing is to be flexible. A lot of parents, I've seen this, they want to revolve the custody schedules around their work or their lives. And with teenagers, it's really hard. These kids have been going through a tremendous amount of change with living in a pandemic. Their educational life has been disrupted. Some of them might be learning online versus, they might not see their friends on a regular basis. So there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that the teens might not tell you about, but that are going on. So
Right.
if you can be flexible, um, you know, you might have a child that says, "Hey, do you want to go get a bite to eat?" Whereas you probably were planning to make a nice meal and do A, B, C, and D, but the kid's like, "Hey, do you want to just go grab a bite to eat?" I'm going to go out on a limb and say, drop what you're doing and go out to eat with your kid.
Hmm.
Keep the leftovers for tomorrow, but make them the priority. Give them that hour and a half, whatever time it is, and go sit and have a meal with them.
It makes a lot of sense because it's so hard to get time with them anyway, because they don't really want to spend a lot of time. So
Right.
yeah,
When
that's
they
great.
call, you kind of have to go because, they could be reaching out that they need you, or it might just be something simple as they just want to go get food. But at least if you're there with them, it makes a difference. Um, My third tip is really important, and it's something that I personally will continue probably until the day I die to work on, and that is to listen. I teach it in my communication class. Believe it or not, we only hear 25% of what is being spoken to
Oh
us
my gosh.
at a given time. That's a fact.
Hmm.
And then I have everybody say, "Oh, but I'm a good listener." Nope. The best listeners, 25%. So, um, when you're with your child and you're being present and you're talking to them, you want to show that you're actively listening. And people don't know what active listening necessarily means. Well, that means you're physically showing them that you're paying attention and that whatever they're saying is getting inside.
Hmm.
So, one of the things I suggest is like paraphrasing or mirroring what the child's saying. So, if they said, that they had a tough game and they feel like they ruined the game, you can go back and say, gosh, I feel like you feel like you were completely responsible for this, and then have a discussion about it.
Mm.
And another thing you can do to show active listening is ask questions, and guide the conversation. Well, why do you feel like you ruined the game? And then kind of let the child kind of take you where they want to go with the conversation. Um, Sometimes the kids want to vent, and they want someone to hear them. And I will tell you, when you do that, and that goes for all of us, we all want to be heard, right?
Right. So
And
true.
when you are heard, it shows that you value that person.
Hmm.
And, I think especially for the teens right now, having that positive reinforcement will really help, with
Right.
them.
So what happens? I'm just wondering, what happens if you feel like maybe they want to talk, but they're not telling you they want to talk. I guess it's asking questions, like you said.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I call that peeling the onion.
Mm.
So, the onion has layers and a teenager has layers. um, so, teens, you need to peel the onion, right? Because it's like, oh, how was school today? Fine.
That's that's what I was thinking.
Well, okay, it was fine, but you don't look fine, and then you ask directed questions like, well, how's your math class going? And, how are the assignments that you're doing? And what are you learning right now in math? And if you keep asking questions that are specific and targeted, you're gonna break open somewhere, and they'll usually end up spilling. Uh,
Helpful, very helpful.
yeah. The other thing, and this is a standard, but I put it in every single one because we can't have enough reminders, is don't talk about the other parent. And much easier said than done, right?
Right.
Um, Sometimes the kids bring up the other parent because they're frustrated with that parent and they're trying
Mm.
to play you. So you have to be really careful. And you don't necessarily have to defend the other parent, but you don't want to jump on the kid's side against the parent and
Mm.
pick a side, if you will. So you just kind of want to be what I call plain vanilla, neutral, and gosh, I'm sorry you had a fight with your dad. You know,
Mm.
sorry, that stinks.
I love that, plain vanilla.
Yeah, plain
That's
vanilla.
like, that sticks. I'll remember that, and I'm sure
Yep,
whoever's listening is going to remember that.
yep. I've done a lot of reading on that. I've done a lot with my clients, because I remind them as we're going through the process, just because we're doing mediation doesn't mean it's always easy. You know, there's always hiccups. And so I remind them, I'm like, plain vanilla, just bring it down. That's between the child and parent, not you. Especially if the divorce is final, you know, there's really no reason to have a communication or engage. And then one of the things that I found that I've seen often is there's usually one parent, and it's not necessarily gender specific, but there's usually one parent that's always defending themselves. And usually it's the parent that leaves the relationship, you know, because they feel like they've broken up the family and they've disrupted the unit. And so that person usually feels like they have to defend themselves all the time. And the therapists tell me, you don't have to defend yourself. You know, just stop. Because when you defend yourself, it's like you're engaging and you're kind of dredging up some stuff on the bottom of the ocean floor that we don't really want to deal with or see. Stuff that should just kind of stay there. So teens are very good at kind of, you know, sparking little fights here and there, or, you know, kind of getting your blood pressure up in a very short amount of time. So, you know, the therapists have uniformly said, you know, it is no benefit to engage or even defend. And, you know, that is probably the hardest tip here to swallow is, you know, because you want to explain, like, you know, why did I leave? Or, you know, why did he leave? Or I want you to understand my side of things. No.
I feel like you're really talking, I mean, and it's so difficult, that whole self-management. I mean, that's a big piece that's needed from what you're saying.
Yeah. So even though this is about the teen, it's really about you. And like you said, how you are managing, because at the end of the day, you're the parent, you're the adult. You are still responsible for guiding them into adulthood.
Right. Right.
And, you know, yes, you want to show them love. You want to show them support. You know, if a child comes back and is angry with you, if you're the spouse that left, for example, and they want to fight about it, you just stop and you say, I'm sorry you feel that way. I don't agree with you, but I understand how you feel. But I love you and I'm here for you. And you just cut it off.
Great reminders.
I've
Great reminders.
happen, yeah, and it works. So, you know, if you take these tips, if anybody takes them, even if you take one tip and work on it, it helps. And I'll tell you, you know, a lot of parents are realizing that even though they don't live in the house with their child 100% of the time, even if they only see the teen like maybe once or twice a week for maybe an hour or two, that quality time is worth more than a week in the house together, being in separate rooms on your electronics.
Good point. And
it might end up making your relationship that much better.
You bring so much that we aren't thinking about. And thank you. Thank you for all you shared. And anyone who's thinking about looking into divorce mediation, has questions, or would like a consultation with one of our experts, please feel free to call our office at 1-800-310-9085. Christina, thanks for being our guest, and we look forward to every time you're on.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.